the day a rising star announced her engagement. Top idol Zack smoked on the balcony all night. I teased him. "Why don't you go crash the wedding?" Zack pulled me into his arms, his thumb brushing over the scar where I once took a knife for him. "Silly girl, you really have that little confidence in yourself?" But 2 days later, a reporter friend sent me a video. Zack and Victoria, urged on by a cheering crowd, crying as they embraced and kissed. The system came back online. It pitted me. "I managed to get you a benefit. For just 1 yuan. You can keep living as Zack's wife." I tossed the 1 yuan coin into the sea. No need. Later on, though, I heard that the superstar Zack exhausted his wealth and all his strength, just to search the ocean for a single coin, looking for a needle in the sea. Chapter 1. When the black Prado came crashing toward me, I happened to be clutching a 1 yuan coin in my hand. Years later, the system came back online again. Its voice trembled with tears. "I managed to get you a benefit. For just 1 yuan. You can continue living as Zack's wife." I remembered Zack's strange behavior the night before. His career was soaring. He no longer needed to stand on the balcony, smoking anxiously into the night. I guessed it was because of Victoria's engagement announcement, looking at the lonely figure leaning against the railing. I joked again. "Why don't you go crash the wedding?" The man stepped out of the dim night, his brows forever carrying distance and indifference. His fingers brushed over the scar where I once took a knife for him. He smiled gently. "Silly girl, what nonsense are you thinking about all day?" I didn't dodge it. "I'm afraid you'll run off with someone else." After hearing this, his smile grew even more unrestrained. His large hand reached out and rubbed my cheek. "If I left someone as good as Jane to go after someone else, that would be downright pathetic. Then don't leave tonight, okay?" Zack had been extremely busy lately. After the company started up, there were endless affairs. He was always going out in the middle of the night. "Fine, even if the company explodes tonight, I'm not leaving." I smiled along with him, lowering my eyes, Jane's eyes, so he wouldn't notice the tears flickering inside. I had no expectations of him. Otherwise, Victoria wouldn't be so confident. "Want to make a bet?" "I'll hook my finger, he'll definitely come." That message appeared in my INS DMs. From a stranger. I politely asked, "Who are you? Do I really need to introduce myself?" "Little beggar? We've met at the orphanage. At your home." Chapter 2. Those words froze me on the sofa. She came prepared. She knew about my past with Zack. She knew I had once been the dumbest, dirtiest kid in the orphanage. "Why are you telling me this?" She replied quickly. "I just want to date someone." "Who told you to be so dramatic all the time? South City's weather is bad enough every time there's thunder and rain. He has to run back to comfort you. Nothing else." "I just think being this dramatic is annoying and disgusting. I don't like it." I bit down hard on my lower lip, staring blankly at Zack's figure as he came in through the entryway. "Baby, did you miss me?" He looked so natural, as if he had just gotten off work. But I noticed one button missing from his shirt. In Victoria's private messages, there was a photo of his side profile, faintly flushed when he was emotional. Lightning flashed outside the window. Zack's phone rang several times. Maybe that was the bet Victoria mentioned. She wanted me to see who Zack would choose first. I didn't know why, but the inferiority complex I'd buried for years began to stir again. I felt certain I would lose. Zack slipped his arm around the back of my neck, holding me gently, yet I could feel his body stiffen. "Baby, have you ever thought that running away isn't a long-term solution?" I knew exactly what he meant. But that day, when I dragged you out of the ruins, lightning struck my best friend right in front of me. I was afraid of loud noises. Afraid of that kind of natural force that could take someone away in an instant. At the orphanage, I had only 2 best friends. She was gone. Now there was only Zack left. He turned me around seriously so we were looking straight at each other. "Baby, you need to grow up, and the company matters a lot. You also want me free from Starlight Entertainment's control, don't you? This new company is my hope and our future. All these years, as long as it benefited him. I had always supported him with everything I had. I don't want you to go." For once, I was selfish. His phone was still vibrating, impatience creeping into his expression. "Baby, think about it first. He stood up and started replying to messages. What he didn't know was that Victoria screenshot every reply and sent them to me. Victoria said, "You haven't left yet?" Zack said, "She's throwing a tantrum. She used to drink toilet water in the orphanage, and now she's this delicate." Zack, "If you're busy, it's fine. I'll just let my fiancé kick the door outside. Should be okay. He's probably just trying to scare me. This is a society ruled by law. He wouldn't really bring a knife." Zack sent a helpless emoji. "I spoiled her too much. I'll teach her to be more independent. Don't be afraid. I'll be there soon." By the time I finished reading the messages, he had just put his phone away. "I'll come back later and cook something good for you." He quickly put on his suit jacket. Before leaving, he turned back. He pressed a light kiss to my forehead. "Be good." The door closed completely. The system came back online again. "I'm sorry to see you again." "I'm sorry. I'm not a system that brings good news." I really wanted to hug it. "It's okay. It's not your fault." Its voice was soft and cute when it replied. "It's not your fault either." Chapter 3. The next day was my birthday. Zack didn't show up, for the first time ever. I sent him a message. 7 or 8 hours later, he finally replied. A photo from a foreign country. He stood beside a road sign, looking triumphant and full of life. "Baby, Zurich is beautiful. Once I'm done here, I'll bring you along to travel and make up your birthday." I replied with a single word. "Okay." That photo wasn't taken in real time. Just minutes earlier, my reporter friend had sent me a video. A married man crashing a wedding. "This is fucking hilarious." Victoria, that pretentious coquette, doesn't even need a strategic marriage. The partner she was supposed to marry already went bankrupt. She did it on purpose, buying trending topics every day, acting like she was forced to get married. That pretentious coquette is the best at playing innocent. In the video, Zack and Victoria were urged on by the crowd, crying as they embraced and kissed. When Victoria appeared publicly on screen, I recognized her instantly. People spend their entire lives trapped by what they couldn't have when they were young. She was what Zack could never have. 1 year. The orphanage held an event. Victoria, the mayor's daughter, stayed with us for more than half a month. Zack was inseparable from me. Yet during that half month, he barely spoke to me at all. I once thought she was just a passing figure in Zack's life. Later, I realized she was the unreachable moon in the sky. We had stayed together for too long. We could never compare to the novelty of that moon. Zack was kissing Victoria across the ocean. I went out alone, planning to buy myself a birthday cake, when the car mounted the sidewalk and charged straight at me. I froze where I stood. Even the system didn't understand what was happening. Why did the punishment come early? I comforted it. "It's okay. I lived for so many extra years and saw so many things. That's not bad at all." That lightning strike back then had actually hit me too. I had shielded Zack with my body. That was when the system first appeared. It asked me to choose someone to conquer. If we fell in love, I could keep living. I chose Zack. We depended on each other to survive in the orphanage. Conquering him felt like the one path in this world that could never go wrong. But in this moment, I realized I was wrong. Love was never that simple. The system cried as it froze time. Moments later, its light flickered. "I managed to get you another chance. For just 1 yuan. You can continue living as Zack's wife, but you'll be with him forever." In the past, being with Zack forever would have been tempting, but I had grown up. "No need. Thank you." I happened to be clutching a coin in my hand. Just over 10 meters away was the sea. I threw the coin into it. Frozen time began to flow again. The pain of the car crash was no less than that lightning strike years ago. Unfortunately, I didn't die immediately. In that split second, I saw an old friend of mine, Dominic. The ambulance rushed me to the hospital. The smell of disinfectant filled my entire chest. I heard his voice as he spoke to the other doctors. Desperate and frantic. "The patient's heart has stopped. Continue external chest compressions." Chapter 4. Zack called me more than a dozen times. The surgery was in progress then. I didn't get any of them. After the emergency treatment ended, Dominic found my phone outside the operating room. He answered the latest call. "I'm only cooperating with her. Why can't you let it go already?" Zack's voice carried impatience and restrained anger. His words grew faster, as if he were forcing himself not to explode. Victoria and I are tied together by interest. Can't you think about things from my perspective for once? This isn't the old days anymore. He paused, took a deep breath. This isn't the time when you could solve everything with brute force and fists. It was as if he still remembered how, when we were kids, I fought other children for him. They called Zack a stray dog, a bastard, the mistress's son. The last time he came, he had been following behind the CEO of Baisher Group, handing out snacks and toys to us. When he got out of the car, he was dressed in a white suit, small and delicate, like a figure cut straight out of a magazine. That was the richest family in the entire city. The next time he came, he became one of us. Someone whispered to me that the lady of Baisher Group had discovered Zack's existence. His mother had died too. The boss had no choice but to send Zack here. Every month, we participated in various performances to raise donations. As long as cameras were recording, Zack was relatively safe. The madam was reassured. As long as he received an ordinary education, blended in with ordinary people, he wouldn't threaten her own son's position. Sometimes I wondered, when he yearned for Victoria, was he also yearning for that former life? Dominic wanted to tell him about my condition. At that moment, the operating room lights came on again. Dr. Dominic. A nurse called for him. The patient has fallen into another coma and is showing neurological localization symptoms. The situation is critical. He dropped the phone and ran straight into the operating room. Jane, why aren't you answering? On the other end, Zack stared at the call screen. After a long moment, he sighed and hung up. Victoria shot him a sideways glance, her tone tinged with mockery. She's throwing a tantrum. Wild grass, once it absorbs too much nourishment, tends to grow into poison. He hesitated for a split second. She's different. Then do you want your career? Or do you want to be an ordinary person? Have you really thought it through? Victoria gave him a sharp look, then turned away. She dares to post today saying I bullied her and brag about being close to you. Tomorrow she'll dare to expose that she slept with you, and it would be the truth. But the public doesn't care about truth. To them, that's you deceiving everyone. Her coffee splashed onto the table from the force of her anger. Zack looked out the window. A dull ache throbbed between his brows, and he raised a hand to rub it. The phone rang again. It was Dominic, calling from my phone. Zack answered immediately. Jane. Just now the night you registered your marriage. Dominic interrupted. What kind of astronomical phenomenon appeared in the sky? Zack froze. He searched his memory frantically before realizing whose voice it was. Dominic? Ice instantly settled over his brows. Where's Jane? Why do you have her phone? Where are you? Zack had never been friendly toward Dominic. He had always believed there was something improper between us. He had always been afraid I would choose Dominic. Ignoring his agitation, Dominic continued calmly. I'm asking you, what was the celestial phenomenon that night? Please answer that first. Zack's mind kept jumping to fragments. Dominic, are you out of your mind? What right do you have to ask this? Doesn't Jane know? Who do you think you are? Zack. I'm just her friend. You damn it, what was the phenomenon that night? There's no time left. Dominic's sudden outburst stunned him. After all, that man was always gentle. Swearing had never been part of his vocabulary. That night, I knew Zack couldn't answer. That night, day and night reversed. The sun appeared in the night sky. Zack had flown to England overnight, because Victoria had attempted suicide. When he came back, he had no idea what kind of bizarre celestial sight I had witnessed. I asked him, Zack, did you see the sun last night? His eyes were heavy with exhaustion. It was raining in England, overcast. Oh, an answer that missed the question entirely. I was talking about China. He was talking about England. Chapter 5. At the moment the system's countdown reached 0. Dominic wanted nothing more than to fly overseas and tear Zack apart. What puzzled me was why the system kept giving me chances. Maybe it was its first time being a system, not yet immune to love, loss, and grief. It told Dominic to call Zack and throw out a single question. 30 seconds. If he answers correctly, I'll let Jane live. No hints, no follow-up questions. You may only ask this one thing. Okay. Dominic miscalculated. He assumed that any man, on the night he registered his marriage, would be with his wife. Even he knew it. That night, the heavens were abnormal. Day and night reversed. The sun appeared at night, but Zack wasn't even in the country. He wasn't even facing the same direction. Zack, you bastard. I hope you regret this for the rest of your life. Time's up. Answer incorrect. The phone slipped from Dominic's hand. Following his gaze, another attending physician walked out of the operating room. His face grave as he shook his head. It was as if Dominic heard the flat, endless beep announcing death, so long it pierced through his entire life, and stretched all the way to its end. Let Jane hear the phone. Dominic smiled, tears smashing onto the floor, and said calmly, "She's dead." That day, everyone connected to me fell into chaos. Victoria insisted on waiting for their business partners to return together, refusing to allow any private jets to take off. Zack snatched a gun from his bodyguard and forced the pilot to depart. At the hospital, Dominic fought Zack like a madman. He shouted, "You pathetic coward." Zack didn't fight back. Blood smeared the corner of his eye as he said, "Do me a favor, beat me to death. That would be letting him off too easy." The system muttered by my ear. I, on the other hand, was oddly happy. Is your headquarters boss really willing to give me this chance? The system coughed softly, as if I could see it standing there, hands on hips, all smug. Of course, I could go back 14 days, to properly say goodbye to the people I missed. But be careful, you must follow how things originally unfolded. Don't do anything out of line, without affecting the timeline. Go say your goodbyes properly. Thank you. Chapter 6. The system sent me back to the early hours of 14 days ago. When I opened my eyes, Zack was sleeping soundly beside me. Soft rustling came from outside the door. By the moonlight, I saw my German shepherd squeeze in through the crack. "Toby, go sleep outside." He didn't listen. Instead, he climbed onto Zack's side and barked loudly, waking him up. Zack turned on the light. Toby sat on the floor, his puppy eyes sharp, fixed on Zack like a predator staring at prey. "Toby," without hesitation, Toby lunged, jaws snapping toward Zack's neck. Then time rewound, again and again. Toby tried to kill Zack. The system appeared. "Host, there's a flaw I didn't have time to tell you about. After your death, Zack fainted in the hospital and came back with you. His consciousness landed in your dog. He thinks that if he kills himself, you won't be punished by the system, but the timeline will automatically correct itself." Toby lay at my feet, letting out a low whine. The system warned him, "One more move, and I'll revoke Jane's chance this time." Zack, there's no undo button in this world. Maybe you should take a good look at just how pathetic you were before you lost the one you loved. Chapter 7. The next day, I was in the kitchen boiling shrimp for Toby. The keypad lock beeped. Zack came home. I didn't go over to greet him. I didn't want to repeat last time, opening the door only to see Victoria hanging around his neck. Her voice had been sweet as she said, "Zack, your tie's crooked." Then, upon seeing me, she put on a fake smile and explained, "We still have an event to attend later. Don't misunderstand, little sister." And I, losing control because of that intimacy, had given Victoria a cold look. In the end, all I got was Zack saying, "Jane, you always overthink things. Why are you throwing a tantrum again? You didn't used to be like this." Every time I questioned him, he would hold me and coax me, telling me they were just business partners. He said that if I didn't like it, he could give up this career. Zack knew perfectly well I would always support him. I would never let my own emotions get in the way of his ambitions. And yet he treated my trust like something disposable. Chapter 8. These were my last 2 weeks in this world. I didn't want to be dragged around by emotions anymore. After the shrimp were cooked, I stood in the kitchen, peeling them for Toby one by one. "Baby, what are you doing?" Zack ditched Victoria in the living room and ran over to hug me from behind. "Making food for Toby." "Baby, let me do it, otherwise you'll cut your hand again." I nudged him with my elbow. "Go help your colleague. Don't you still have an event to attend?" "I have things to do later and will be heading out, so I won't be entertaining guests." His movements froze abruptly. He bent down, resting his chin in the hollow of my neck, acting spoiled. I didn't respond to him, focusing only on what I was doing. He couldn't sense my emotions at all. In his eyes, I was distant, objective, cold. Zack, could you come out for a moment? I don't know where I can change my clothes. Victoria had come upstairs to borrow a room to change. She had attended an event at a nearby international mall. Overzealous fans knocked over a champagne tower, soaking her from head to toe. I'll go, I said. Zack leaned down and bit my lip lightly, only pulling away after it hurt. Baby, I'll be back early tonight. How funny. Last time, when I got angry, he didn't come back that night, or the next day. The world is full of twists and turns because people love to act pathetic. If you indulge men too much, they only get more self-destructive. No need. I have an appointment with a publisher to talk about work. You go handle your own stuff, I said. Chapter 9. Victoria went into mine and Zack's bedroom to change. There was a guest room. There was a dressing room. Any one of them could have been closed off. Yet she chose our bedroom. She changed into a shimmering mermaid-style dress, slipped into my slippers, and looked around leisurely. I went in as well to find clothes for when I went out later. Her footsteps stopped by the photo wall. I almost wanted to answer for her. These photos of you two look like they were taken when you were 15 or 16. Why is there only one? I remember when he went to the orphanage. He was only 9. To avoid trouble, I followed the memory and said, he doesn't like taking photos. Back then, Zack resisted becoming one of us and didn't want to be photographed. When he got older, he still avoided it. He was afraid that group photos from the orphanage would show up in charity news, that relatives on his mother's side would laugh at him. After all, when his mother latched onto a wealthy man, she had brought Zack back more than once to show off. When the tower collapsed, those relatives rushed in to trample on the ruins. Hearing me say Zack didn't like photos, she pretended to be surprised. But we were neighbors when we were kids. He loved taking photos of me with a camera. Seeing that I didn't react, she continued. He liked group photos even more. People there, cats, dogs, he dragged all of them into photos with him. She was trying to imply that Zack would rather take photos with dogs than with me. I shrugged and stepped closer to her. Excuse me, I'm looking for an outfit. She awkwardly stepped aside, giving me space to open the wardrobe. In my peripheral vision, Victoria was still staring at that photo. To be honest, that picture really did make it look like he didn't like me. His face was sullen, lips pressed into a straight line. The camera froze that moment when I was 15. Zack was sulking, deliberately keeping his distance from me. A volunteer from the charity wanted to take my picture. I forcibly dragged Zack over and took one with him. He was still reluctant, because that day, I met Dominic. He was warm and sunny, far more fun than Zack. Chapter 10. Later on, we went to college. A well-known director went to their school scouting for actors, and Zack stood out and successfully debuted. I stayed by his side as he built everything from nothing. It's been 8 years now, and the time we were truly together was far, far longer than that. Could I borrow your lipstick to touch up my makeup? I was a little surprised and looked over. A new trick. Last time she hadn't touched up her lipstick. She skillfully opened the vanity cabinet and picked out a slim little gold tube. My vanity cabinet was a gift from a close friend. She had gone to study mortise and tenon joinery and made the simple, antique-style cabinet for me out of wood herself. The clasp on the lipstick case was very discreet, also specially designed by my friend to suit my habits. Anyone using it for the first time would definitely ask me how to open it. But Victoria opened it with practiced ease. Right in front of me. This deep berry red is really good, she said, pinching the lipstick Zack had given me and giving it a little shake. I endorse this one. The brand sent me tons before, so I gave some to my coworkers. Zack seems to have one too. How does it feel when you use it? She smiled, but the smile felt completely out of place. I like it a lot. That's good. When there are new shades later, I'll send you a few more. Thank you. So this wasn't her first time in Zack's and my bedroom. Every visit really was full of surprises. I stood there in a daze for a moment, watching her look around the room, touching my things, as if this were her territory. I smiled faintly and said to her, "Could you come over here for a moment?" She turned her head and said disdainfully, "What is it?" When she came closer, I suddenly reached out and grabbed her hair. Yanking hard, her whole body was forced backward by my strength. She pretended she was about to scream. I covered her mouth. "Victoria, if you want him, why put on an act like you don't care? Second-hand goods, if you want him. I'll give him to you." She was taller than me, but she was a celebrity after all. So skinny she was practically skin and bones. She couldn't overpower me. Holding her in place, I snorted, "If you dare make a sound, I'll stab you to death right now." I just found out I'm terminally ill anyway. The way I looked then, I really did resemble someone with a terminal illness who didn't have long to live. I let her go, still shaken. She stared at my face, hatred radiating from her eyes. "No wonder you suddenly got so bold, you're about to die," she said, hands on her hips. Not a trace of elegance. "Don't worry, I won't stoop to arguing with a dead person." "Well, thank you so much, bitch." That set off her anger. Before she could make a move, I pulled out a box cutter. "Don't believe me? You can try." Only then did she back down, storming out in frustration. Zack was waiting at the door for her, maybe because she'd heard that I was dying. Victoria's courage had grown a bit. She affectionately looped her arm through Zack's. He instinctively pulled away, his gaze fixed on me the whole time. Just like every time he explained himself to me, how he was clean, how he would never betray me, looking at me with that same earnest expression. But so what? Victoria advanced step by step, and he did not shut the door tight. It was only a matter of time, because he was certain that on the balance of a relationship between two people, I would not leave, would not let him fall off the cliff. He didn't realize that he was the one who had stepped out of that balance first. Chapter 11. Baby, I'm heading out. Wait for me at home. Zack said goodbye to me naturally at the door, leaning against the bedroom doorway. I smiled and asked, "Was that her first time coming to our place?" Sure enough. His expression froze for a split second. Then he lied smoothly. "Of course it was, baby. Why would you ask that?" Since I was going to die anyway. I didn't feel like catering to his emotions anymore. "Zack, honestly, your acting in real life isn't as good as your acting in movies. I would be sad, just not right now. When you lose something, you should wave boldly and understand that crying and making a scene is never a punishment. Do you want to explain it to me?" Zack strode back to my side, hands pressing on my shoulders, pretending to be calm. "Baby, I swear, okay?" He even raised 3 fingers as if taking an oath. I let out a soft laugh. Since when did swearing become a get-out-of-jail-free card? "Zack, I overthought it. I trust you. I know you wouldn't do anything to betray me, and I'll keep my promise to stay with you forever." He froze. "You said it yourself," he murmured. "People who betray others go to hell." I didn't know why the one dying was me, but I was pretty sure I'd be going to heaven. He snapped back to his senses, pulled me tightly into his arms, his hand patting my back. "Baby, once I'm done with this job, I'll make a lot of time for you. I'm sorry, it's my fault for being so busy and making you feel insecure." I pushed him away and smiled. "Actually, this job isn't something you absolutely have to go to." I asked Xia Tian. He said your schedule is already finished. I enunciated every word clearly. There's no mandatory requirement for you to attend the next event. He forced a bright smile. I might have follow-up cooperation with this brand. Going along to take a look. Maybe. Stay. I said, stay, and I'll give my last goodbye to you. Zack, stay with your wife. I'll head out first. She said it toward us, smiling awkwardly. 1, 2, acting like AI on screen, yet such excellent actors in real life. Baby, I'll be back soon. He leaned in to kiss my cheek. I stepped back. I respect your choice, I said, seeing my distant reaction. Zack looked a little dejected. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Baby, stop sulking. I'll have Xia Tian buy that necklace you liked last time. It'll be delivered soon. Wait for me to come back, okay?" I asked. Is it really unavoidable? Is Victoria a child? Her team has so many people, she's not short one person. His smile thinned, impatience leaking out. There's an order to things. I already promised her first. It's just work. Stop making a fuss. Once I'm done, all my time will be yours. He always thought I was just throwing a tantrum. He never understood what I was actually struggling with. Did he really think he could love two people flawlessly at the same time? Victoria deliberately put on a carefree act in front of me. Yet the sound of her high heels was louder than anyone's, as if she wanted to stomp straight through the floor. His tall figure disappeared into the stairwell. His footsteps followed closely behind Victoria. Victoria. Wait. Just like that. Without hesitation. He chose someone else. Maybe because I once said I would never abandon him. But when he'd asked me, red-eyed, to make that promise, had he ever thought about his own betrayal? Woof, woof. Toby barked madly at Zack's retreating back, paws scrambling so fast it almost rushed out to knock them over. I grabbed him back. Sit. He whimpered softly and obediently lay down by my feet, his eyes glistening with tears. I went to pack up all of Toby's things, preparing to send him back to the orphanage. Chapter 12. Early the next morning, I returned to the orphanage. The headmistress scolded me with mock anger. Every time you come back, you bring so many good things. The younger kids are happy. Sure, but you're spoiling their tastes. They're still little. I smiled. Didn't you always sneak extra food to us when we were young too? After setting everything down, I went with her to look at the lemons on the tree. Her rough palm brushed over mine. Warm and familiar. It felt like being back in childhood. I leaned against her shoulder, but sensed that she wasn't very happy. Headmistress. What's wrong? My good girl, are you living well? I hesitated for a moment. Very well. She turned me around and looked me over carefully. Why are you getting thinner and thinner? That child Zack, he didn't take good care of you. Did he? I can take care of myself. I exercise too. Maybe I just have a small frame. Don't worry. Even the headmistress you're lying to now? I froze. She had me sit sideways and began braiding my hair. You got married. And the headmistress has been watching all along. You smile less and less. You used to smile so much, like a sunflower. Once Zack got you, he stopped cherishing you. She kept talking about the past, rambling gently. I still remember when he first came, withdrawn, strange. Other kids bullied him. You felt sorry for him and fought with the boys every time, your face always bruised and swollen. I even asked you back then how a little girl could solve everything with her fists. What did you tell me? Do you remember? I shook my head. You said that the last time Zack came, you didn't get any good food or clothes. But Zack saw it and secretly got you nice sneakers and a huge cake full of fruit. Oh, I thought then, our Jane is so kind. Truly the apple of the headmistress's eye. Back then, you were like a little boss, watching over Zack every day, protecting him. Some teachers even told me you were currying favor at such a young age, following behind the rich man's son. I was furious. I scolded that teacher badly. I never blamed Zack. He had his pride. That child knew it himself. The wealthy family was no longer a place he could return to. He looked cold and distant, like he didn't care about anything. I was with you all day. How could I not know? His jealousy was so strong. You were the kid's leader. If you got close to anyone else, he wouldn't even eat, doing everything he could to follow you around. He thought no one noticed. I bit my lip, my vision growing blurrier and blurrier. That child Zack did everything he could to make you choose him. So why didn't he cherish you? The headmistress cried as she searched for a hair tie. I handed my precious girl over to him. How did she become like this? I really don't like it. So she knew everything, and yet I had gone to such lengths to hide it from her. Headmistress. I'll go somewhere else and live a very good life. I turned to look at her. I'll write to you, I said, holding her tight. I'll visit you in your dreams. Think of you the same way. Don't worry about me. Chapter 13. Zack would grab me every time I tried to get up, silently saying, Jane, with me, right here, together, okay? I could see the sorrow and longing in his eyes. He pretended nothing was wrong, yet the string in his mind was never loosened. He was afraid I wouldn't choose him, including Dominic. I knew it well every time he saw Dominic and me laughing together in the same place. The jealousy and fear in his eyes were almost tearing him apart. All he could do was pretend to stay calm. In his eyes, Dominic, so warm and sunny, was someone perfectly matched with me, so Zack could only break down hysterically in the dark. Then, fueled by alcohol, "Tell me, Jane, can you stay with me forever? I'm begging you, please don't ever abandon me." I said yes. I said I was lonely too, and that we could choose each other. Holding the headmistress, I murmured. I promised him I would choose him. He was the lover I chose myself. Headmistress, just like I chose you. Anyone I choose, I will love with all my heart. It's just that some people chose to give up on their own. I didn't abandon him. I once believed we were each other's support. That love would heal us both. But time passed. The world changed, and everything turned into a joke. Chapter 14. I leaned against the headmistress's shoulder, breathing in the scent of lemons. A burst of commotion came from outside the gate. Hearing the sound of cars, the children streamed out one after another. I wanted to stand up and take a look too, but the headmistress pressed my hand down. "Go to my room and watch TV." Toby got up from the ground as well, staring toward the gate. After watching for a moment, he bit the hem of my pants, trying to drag me upstairs. Cameramen, equipment cases, staff members, one after another. The logo on their uniforms read, "Lucky, Zack's company." I finally understood why the headmistress felt I wasn't living well. She had seen Zack return to the orphanage many times, but never with me. He acted alongside another girl, and their behavior was as intimate as that of lovers, making it impossible to tell what was real and what was just acting. She had seen that girl before too. A born troublemaker, she had stayed here for half a month as a child and left the children's relationships in complete chaos. Victoria was a perfect disruptor. She never blended into the crowd, yet somehow made everyone remember her. A skill learned early by those born on top. Stir the waters, then stand aside and watch the fire burn. The headmistress plucked a large lemon from the tree and handed it to me. "You love boiling this in water to drink. Go upstairs." This was her way of protecting me, but she didn't know. I wouldn't be hurt by this anymore. Chapter 15. I was in the small room on the third floor, playing with the cats. The noise downstairs faded. The shoot was probably over. A break. One of my little followers ran over to ask Zack, "Where's Sister Jane?" "She's at home," Zack replied. The child asked bluntly, "Are you cheating?" That was how his parents had split up. How they had abandoned him. Zack smiled and shook his head. "You are cheating when there aren't any cameras. You're still hugging each other." Victoria shoved him lightly and said, "Kid, you understand a lot for your age, but don't say everything out loud. It's not likable. You do bad things and won't let people say it. You snake witch." After saying that, he knew it wasn't likable either and scrambled up a tree in a few quick moves. Victoria stomped hard on the stone pavement with her high heels, grinding her teeth. "Zack, these kids are really annoying." Zack put his hands in his pockets and followed her steps toward the gate. The child on the tree was still bold, as if venting anger for me, shouting down, "Homewrecker!" She turned around, grabbed Zack by the collar, stood on tiptoe, and kissed him. Would a mistress dare be this blatant? Then you're a blatant mistress. Get down here. I'm not getting down. Mistresses are disgusting. Zack stood there quietly, expressionless, letting them shout. Upstairs, I watched, scrolling on my phone, and replied, "Do whatever you want. I don't care about him." My reporter friend sent back an okay sticker. "Good. I was afraid you'd still defend that scumbag." She released a video, Victoria begging a director for a role, drinking with him late at night. Of course, the face was blurred, but the voice wasn't processed. Everyone knew it was her, that distinctive, cloying tone. Chapter 16. While things were still in chaos, Victoria's agent rushed in and handed her a phone. In just a few seconds, her face drained of color. She nearly collapsed to the ground. Her agent hinted pointedly, "This reporter is Jane's friend." Victoria struggled to her feet and pointed at Zack, screaming, "Did you hear that? She's sabotaging me. Jane is a bitch." Zack stood with his back to them, unmoving. "Calm down first." "Calm down? How can I calm down? Director Chen's wife, that she-devil, she'll tear me apart." Victoria snatched the phone from her agent and strode off. "If you won't deal with her, I will. I'll show her what happens when a beggar climbs over my head. He followed and pulled her back. Her crying was graceless, and the children stood scattered around, watching. After a long while, she calmed down and buried her head in Zack's chest. You spoiled her. And what did I do wrong? I never hurt her. Yet my career is ruined. Zack. She lifted her eyes and happened to see my shadow mixed among the slanted tree shadows. She smiled at me, her voice trembling with tears. Leave it to me, okay? I have a temper too. I promise she won't lose her life. I'll just teach her a small lesson. Once you get through this period, you'll have the Ning family's company. Your mother will acknowledge you too. Think carefully, after working so hard for so long. Are you really going to give it up for a little beggar? The wind stung my eyes. Under the gentle autumn sunlight, I saw them standing beneath the lemon tree, embracing, comforting each other, just like I once had. After a long silence, he finally relented. Don't let her be in danger, and don't go too far. Chapter 17. She moved fast. That very afternoon, the video of me fighting someone at the orphanage was exposed, along with my marriage certificate with Zack, and also the coarse, ugly side of me, chugging toilet water like a lunatic, throwing tantrums, rolling on the ground, spewing filthy words. There were also clips of me appearing on a variety show as an illustrator. On the program I said, people who stand on a pedestal, if I like them, I'll drag them down into the mud. I was clearly talking about my comic persona, but they edited it into something aimed at Zack. Oh my god, this woman draws such dark and perverted stuff. Turns out she's a freak in real life too. Zack really drew the short straw, ending up with someone like this with a female supremacy complex. Zack. Blink if you're being kidnapped. No wonder he always looks like there's sorrow in his eyes. Turns out he's got a tiger at home. Ha ha ha. I'm going to give her work 1-star reviews, human scourge. I'll take care of her. After reading those comments, I logged out. This was Victoria's revenge. She said she wouldn't threaten my life, so Zack let her do as she pleased. Turns out, as long as I was alive, that was his bottom line. How ironic. The year he debuted, rival fans went too far and stabbed at him during a celebration banquet. I stepped in front of him and took it, just like I had always done before, shielding him from storms without hesitation. He was afraid I'd die. He even bought us a burial plot. He said his life belonged to me, that I would always be his first priority. That was how he was before Victoria appeared. Turns out promises are that fragile. Chapter 18. Victoria didn't leave. She stayed at the orphanage, borrowing the venue to shoot charity ads. Zack said something to her and left first. An hour later, he called me. Baby, why aren't you home? What is it? Oh, no, nothing. Baby, I bought you pastries from Fresh Pastry House. When are you coming back? I'm out getting some air. I'll spend the next few days at the orphanage with mom director. He hesitated. I'll come find you. Find me, for what? Afraid I'd do something stupid? Afraid Victoria had gone too far and I wouldn't be able to handle it? I gave a soft, mocking laugh. Zack, everyone should bear the consequences of their own choices. What? Baby, I've already postponed the company stuff. Didn't you want to go to Meili Snow Mountain? Let's go there, okay? His voice carried pleading and caution. No, I don't feel like traveling lately. I want to be with you. He still insisted. I thought of the time Dominic was rescuing me, when Victoria, using my name, posted rumors slandering herself. Zack didn't even ask. He called and accused me outright. In his heart, I was always the one who couldn't be presentable. Dirty clothes, ready to fight anyone, disliked studying, even stole things. Maybe only mom director was willing to dissect my inner world. Zack just enjoyed my company. With me around, he didn't need to socialize, didn't need to flatter anyone, didn't need to please anyone, and certainly didn't need to accommodate me. I was easy to keep. I was also stubborn. If I said I wouldn't leave him, I wouldn't. It was only later that I changed, became cheerful and lively, attracting other people's affection. That's when he started feeling insecure, because in his eyes, I now had value, and he was afraid this useful sidekick might change owners. He thought I would always accommodate him, always put him first. So when I had emotions, when I lost my temper, He only thought I was overthinking, being childish. Yes, childish. This leash-like so-called love. I told him very seriously, Zack, you're always like this. When you haven't lost something, you think any rift can be fixed just by talking it out. But people are people, and objects are objects. What do you think I am, your pet? Do I only get to be with you? You agreed to let Victoria do all those things. If you really thought I might not be able to take it, why did you allow it? And I don't like drinking toilet water. Please tell her to stop making jokes about that. You think she's a delicate princess who would never behave improperly. And you don't believe she'd bully anyone. Zack, you only had a childhood betrothal with her and played together when you were little. Do you really know her? I didn't say that if he truly knew her. How could he not know she was close with so many famous directors and big names in the industry? What can't go back will never go back. It was your own choice to stop looking forward. He was silent for a long time. Then, with a trembling, tearful voice, he said, Baby, I'm sorry. I'll investigate everything you mentioned. Let me come stay with you, okay? No. Chapter 19. It wasn't that I didn't know what a toilet was for when I drank from it. The friend who was struck by lightning was the first friend I ever had in my life. Her name was Maya. Victoria said, If you don't drink it, I'll have my uncle adopt Maya. He really likes little girls. She already knew how to threaten people back then. I asked her why she didn't like me. Because my dad praised you for being smart, and I don't like people who are smarter than me. It's that simple. That simple. So I could only learn to become the orphanage's little piece of trash, a troublemaker, a thorn, a crazy girl. She raised her arms and shouted, Come look! Jane doesn't even know toilets are for taking a dump. She's drinking toilet water. I scooped cup after cup, gulped it down in big mouthfuls, smiling brightly the whole time. That was also the first time I saw disgust in Zack's eyes. That look of his made my life rain from time to time, leaving everything damp and cold. Sometimes I wonder, was it because of inferiority that I subconsciously gravitated toward him, accommodated him? But none of this was my fault. I, Jane, was upright and righteous. Smart and sharp. Parents who came to the orphanage to see the kids all wanted to adopt me. I did nothing wrong. I am the best. Zack, I think someone like you doesn't deserve to be loved. After saying that, I hung up. Then I released even more explosive news about Victoria. She had incited her fans to cyberbully an ordinary civilian, someone who had only criticized her for cutting in line and posted about it on their social media. Unable to withstand the cyberbullying, that civilian jumped from a building and died. Throughout the entire process, she mobilized her diehard fans to cause trouble, and walked away completely unscathed. Chapter 20. I just didn't expect that when I exposed her previous sex scandals, she acted as if nothing had happened. But once this incident broke out, news of her suicide immediately shot to the top of the trending list, even though her fans had already been forced to take the blame. Standing in the eye of the storm in her place, she still wasn't satisfied. She wanted to put on a full performance for the public, so that everyone would believe she had been wronged. Now her fans were going crazy, trying every possible way to dox the person who leaked the information, declaring they would definitely get justice for her. At night, Toby and I sat under the moonlight, its paws traced and rubbed against the bluestone pavement. I could tell it was writing the words I'm sorry. I laughed and said, I told you I don't need it anymore. Why bother? It whimpered softly, its whole body flattened against the ground, eyes brimming with tears. The sound of a car came from outside the gate. Zack was getting closer. He looked exhausted, his voice hoarse. Jane, you went too far. I just exposed the truth, I said lightly. He was about to say something when his phone rang. Hello, Oscar. She's still not out of danger? He paused. I know, I'm talking to her right now. I'll definitely apologize. Victoria's agent said she still hadn't passed the danger stage. During a brief moment of consciousness, she demanded that I apologize to her in person. I refused immediately. I'm not going. I stood on the stone slabs, just able to reach the branches of the lemon tree. Zack pinched the bridge of his nose, his voice softening. I know I've been too busy lately and neglected you. But the things you exposed, this is basically destruction for a female artist. I smiled. So you think I wronged her, right? I picked up a piece of chalk, turned around, and started drawing under the moonlight. She deserves it. Jane, come down. He grabbed me, pulling me downward. I tried to break free and lost my footing. My knee was already injured. When I fell, it smashed into a sharp stone, blood everywhere. Sorry, baby. He quickly scooped me up. I saw the pain and distress blooming in his eyes. That was real. The harm was real too. I broke free from his arms, stood firm, and slapped him. She deserves it. Jane. Zack frowned at me. How did you become like this? She's innocent. What about her life? Oscar told me she might never wake up. The scars on her neck won't go away either. What about her future? You destroyed a person. Did you investigate at all? Zack? Why is it that when she does bad things, you think it doesn't fit her character and dump the blame on me, but instinctively assume it must be my fault? I smiled at him and made a video call to a journalist friend. She was in a neon-lit private room at a bar, secretly recording. Victoria was at the center, smiling brightly, viciously. Who told my dad to even think about adopting her? Saying she had talent, that with the same resources she'd do better than me. I'm going to keep her under my heel for the rest of her life. Let her know that if you're a dog, don't dream of gourmet food, you should be eating shit. Someone laughed. She's actually pretty good looking. No wonder your dad wanted to adopt her. That bastard Zack. An illegitimate child who knows where he got such luck. That woman protects him at every turn. Can't even kill her off. Back then his mom came swaggering into the house, thinking she could become the mistress of the place. Didn't she get kicked out clean and fast? He's just lucky. If it weren't for that woman, he'd have been stabbed to death long ago. Someone took a sip of wine. Enough. That's someone Victoria wants. You can't mess with him casually anymore. Tisk. Whatever. Victoria wants him. Can you trick that woman over to me? She's got curves. And she's talented too. Never tried someone educated. Ha ha ha. I looked at him. Zack. Everything about you was ruined by a family like that, so why do you think they're all good people? Is it because my existence constantly reminds you of that disgusting time when you were abandoned and bullied? So I'm lowly, and they're noble? I actually thought about saying goodbye to you properly. After all, we grew up together, depended on each other. In those days, we truly were each other's first choice. I left her some room. The remaining evidence, I'll hand it over to the police. Those days, I charged forward for him, waved flags and fought battles for him. He acted like nothing was wrong, but whenever I was bullied, he would make himself ugly, bristling with thorns, fighting until he was covered in blood. When the orphanage had a performance, he was selected to go far away. He couldn't reach me by phone. Mom director said I had fallen into the water, was unconscious, still being resuscitated. He didn't have enough money for the whole trip, rode part of the way, walked the rest. The night was pitch black. For more than 60 kilometers, he walked and cried. I asked him why he was crying. He said, I don't know, I just want to see you. When I can't see you, I can't stop crying. More than 10 years passed. He covered his face with both hands, choking back sobs. After a long time, he looked up in pain. Please, Jane, don't throw me away, okay? I never crossed that line with her. You can treat me however you want. I'm begging you, don't. Don't leave me alone. I shook off his hand. You brought this on yourself. You asked me to love you. I did, and I did it well. And you willingly debased yourself. Never learned how to cherish anything. You deserve it. Chapter 21. When we were in our early teens, I always stood beneath this lemon tree. Back then, it was still a sapling. Moonlight spilled down, laying a thin veil over the ground. I stood on the stone slabs, waiting for Zack to come back. He was quiet and reserved. Because he played the piano so well, he was often invited to perform at various business gatherings. Through wind, frost, rain, and snow, through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, he brought me back things he found novel and interesting. The boy's features were vivid and striking. When he came close, he lifted me down from the stone and held me tightly. Jane, don't wait for me anymore. It's dark outside. I said, as long as you keep walking toward me, I'll keep waiting. He smiled. Where do you want to live in the future? If I'm with you, anywhere is fine. Me too. Until he entered the entertainment industry and met Victoria Ning. until he discovered that his mother hadn't died at all, but had married into the Ning family and given birth to a son and a daughter. The life he had longed for so desperately reappeared before his eyes in such a dreamlike way. The obsession he had once been persuaded by me to set aside was reignited. He had never let it go, and I had thought love too shallow. Now, finally, I don't need to wait for him anymore. Chapter 22. That night, Mom Director came downstairs and took me away. She slapped Zack across the face. What did you promise me back then? Do you still remember? He slumped his shoulders, his voice hoarse. Mom Director. My little tagalong ran over and shoved Zack out. Go away, Sister Jane needs to rest. His deer-like eyes, wet with tears, were filled with sorrow. He looked so pale it seemed he might shatter the next second. The person I knew best began crying out loud like a child. Jane, I'm begging you, don't leave me, okay? The gate closed. In October, when the lemons ripen, the night carries the true chill of autumn. Leaves fall, night falls. Early the next morning, I drove away alone. Zack had slept outside the gate all night. He followed me step by step, wherever I went. He went, but I only went about my own business. I had an appointment with Dominic and his wife. We would go to Maley Snow Mountain and spend the last 10 days there. Seeing the dark circles under his eyes, his messy curls, the way he bit his lip and let tears spin in his eyes, I rolled down the car window and called out, Zack. He looked at me and forced a smile. Can I visit you in the future? I promise I won't disturb you. He thought this was just a simple farewell, a simple departure. Those who make mistakes often don't yet know how their story will end, and I didn't want to say it either, just as I had never confessed my love to him. I was also tired of witnessing his heart-rending pain. That year, lightning struck once. Rival fans took revenge once. Separation between life and death, he witnessed it twice. Yet still learned nothing. I withdrew my gaze. I wish you peace. I wish you health. Every year we wished each other the same thing, the simplest blessings, peace and health. This spring festival, no one will be waiting for midnight to tell him that anymore. With that, I stepped on the accelerator and drove away. He stood where he was, tears bursting free, pouring through his fingers, as if many years ago, when his parents abandoned him and drove off, while the children at the orphanage delighted in teasing and humiliating an outsider. As if in these past years, when he discovered his mother hadn't died, she had simply built a new family and no longer wanted him. She said, Zack, don't call me Mom. My own children will be hurt. Zack, don't come back to this house because of Victoria. When I see you, all I can think of are those days of humiliation. Mom doesn't want to see you. Think of me, okay? I once told him, Zack, when someone doesn't love you, you should learn to let go and move forward. You should look at dense forests, at flowing rivers, at clouds gathering and dispersing, instead of obsessing over that dead, stagnant pool. But he chose this path himself. Joy and sorrow, reunion and separation, all must be borne by oneself. When you don't know what you truly want, even what you already have can slip away. Chapter 23. Dominic and Quinn both knew about the existence of the system. As for my departure, they spent an entire night crying it out and adjusting their emotions. The next day, smiles hung on everyone's faces. We found a perfect viewing spot and waited for the golden sunlight to crown the mountain peaks. The world is truly beautiful, watching the golden glow cover the mountain tops. I deeply regretted never coming alone before. Earth, I love you, I shouted into the vast valley. Quinn shouted too. Jane, your friends all love you. Jane, to hell with trash men, I love you. You brilliant genius. It felt so good, with so many outstanding people as my friends. Didn't that mean I wasn't worthless at all? The wind howled. I shouted, I'll watch over you. What? Quinn didn't hear clearly. I'll miss you, I said. If you miss us, then come see us. Okay. I'll become a wind in the human world, a cloud, a rain, another gust of wind. I'll become those things and come see you. Through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, through changing seasons, I'll come to you in different forms. Remember to miss me. Chapter 24. With my eyes closed, I seemed to see pavilions and towers in the heavens. The system bent down and embraced me. Are you afraid? No, without attachment. There is no fear. Then I'll give you a gift. I hugged her back and said, "Thank you, Maya. How does it feel to be a system?" Her voice trembled slightly. "I knew you'd still remember me. It feels good. My system colleagues are all very kind. Thank you. I think my childhood was happy. Because you protected me." After that, I sank into a long stretch of peace and nothingness. I saw my grave. Flowers blooming in all 4 seasons. My friends had a rainbow-colored tombstone custom-made for me. On sunny days, it shimmered brilliantly. They told jokes, talked about news, talked about social progress. Occasionally, they mentioned Zack. They said he was like a walking corpse, perpetually drunk, like a mad dog abandoned by its owner, out of control, launching attacks and revenge everywhere. He lived a life of obsession, pouring all his energy into a single sea. He was searching for a coin, a lunatic. They all said, when he was alive, he didn't cherish it. Only after death did he become deeply devoted. Chapter 25. I received a great gift. Before Zack ever appeared, a gentle and refined couple adopted me. I lived an ordinary yet happy life. Mom and Dad helped me raise my little cat. In the school anniversary stage play, I played a lemon tree. Mom leaned over to Dad and whispered, "Our baby is so cute." Dad smiled softly, his gaze falling on me. "Look at that little face. All rosy and well-behaved. If only we'd picked her up a bit earlier. It's okay, we still have lots of time to spoil her and stay by her side." In high school, a cool new student transferred into our class. His name was Dominic. We hit it off instantly. Later, he fell in love with my best friend Quinn. I introduced them, watched them grow happy, and walk into marriage together. I still went to see my favorite celebrities' concerts. Dominic and Quinn were always there. The two of them were inseparably sweet, and I, the third wheel, shone extra brightly. I also went to teach at Jane Hope primary schools. There were many such schools across the country. I heard they were funded by someone named Zack. Turning back, Quinn held her baby and called out to me, "Sueha, come make a wish." We hung red ribbons with our wishes written on them in the tree. I wrote, "May those I love be safe and healthy." The oldest tree there had been sponsored by a businessman. Countless colorful ribbons hung from it, all bearing the same wish. Jane, peace and health. No one knew who Jane was. A stranger said Jane was that businessman's wife, but she had passed away. "That's a pity." She shook her head. "That's his sin." She said goodbye to me. I told him that someone will be dead in his world forever, and you are not that person. Any disturbance would be destruction. From now on, you will be safe, healthy, and blissfully happy. It sounded a bit strange, but I said, "Thank you, you will be too." I went down the mountain with Mom and Dad, because I was hopping ahead like a tantrum-throwing monkey. I accidentally knocked into someone. His face was young yet weary. He wore a hat, strands of white hair faintly visible. The moment he saw me, he scrambled to his feet and quickly moved away. We continued down the mountain. Golden light enveloped the ranges. Quinn asked me to stand beneath a large tree for a photo. "Sueha, someone's looking at you. Do you know them?" I turned around and only saw a fading afterimage. The figure thin and gaunt. I shook my head. "I don't know." Mom and Dad stood on the steps taking photos of me. "Baby, this angle looks great." Dad's getting a shot. "Our baby looks good from every angle." Sunlight was brilliant, and the ripples of water were gentle. Extra. Chapter 1. My name is Maya. Jane and I met when we were 5. Our birthdays were one after the other. I was an orphan. My parents committed suicide after going bankrupt. Jane was not an orphan. Her mother was a nationally renowned dancer named Charlotte. Jane told me this in secret. Charlotte was a charity ambassador and would sometimes come to Red Star Orphanage to do charity work. Almost no one knew she was Jane's mother. She asked Jane to acknowledge her as a godmother. Jane didn't want to. At night, I tried to persuade her. "Sister Lon is super rich. If she becomes your godmother, you'll have lots of pretty dresses to wear." Jane struggled with it. She struggled for an entire year, because during that whole year, Charlotte never came. But Zack did. His 2 visits were worlds apart. Jane and I were very loyal people. Jane said he was a good kid, not as rude as he looked on the surface. I remembered the little cake he brought us last time. "All right then, We can play with him. And so we became a trio. Or rather, we forcibly dragged him into becoming a trio with us. Jane shared the secret about her mother being Charlotte with Zack. She also said, Zack, when my mom comes back again, I'll acknowledge her as my godmother. This new year, we'll have prettier new clothes than the other kids. Jane made us a firm promise. Then we waited, and Charlotte returned to the orphanage, holding a chubby little boy. She called Jane aside. Jane, Auntie Lon won't be coming anymore. You have to take good care of yourself. Jane asked why. I have a new family now. You're doing quite well here. You have mom director. You have friends. Mom can finally feel at ease. Oh, just like that. Lightly and casually, Charlotte abandoned Jane. She had been young and foolish, had a child out of wedlock. Jane's father's side didn't want the baby once they found out it was a girl. Charlotte herself had also come out of an orphanage. She entrusted her child to mom director. Then she built a new family, and never mentioned being Jane's godmother again. She never came back. Seeing that Jane was unhappy, Zack said, "Don't waste time on people who don't love you." But those words became his own swamp. He never escaped his obsession with love he couldn't obtain. Chapter 2. That winter, Jane's down jacket was very thin. The down inside had been stolen by other bad kids. Every day, she stared at the local TV station's Spring Festival gala. She would no longer proudly say, "That person on TV is my mom." She said, "When I grow up, she'll come take me home." Jane just watched the TV quietly. Sometimes she'd ask me, "When will we grow up?" I shook my head. She said, "I really want to have a home." That seemed to become her lifelong dream. On New Year's Eve, Jane and I sat by the stove roasting oranges. Zack didn't come back for a long time. When the clock struck midnight, he returned with a down jacket and some extra loose down in his hand. I burst out laughing beside Jane. I thought Zack would just stand up for her and help her snatch the down back. Instead, he directly dealt with that bad kid, stripped him of his jacket. "Jane," he handed the down jacket to her. His words were always painfully few. Later, as we grew a bit older, the mayor decided to come to the orphanage to adopt a child. He brought his daughter with him. That was the first time I saw Victoria. She wasn't actually good-looking as a child, she was just dressed extremely lavishly. Jane said she looked like a fairy. I said, "Clothes make the man, and a saddle makes the horse." She doesn't look anything like her dad. "You know? I just came out of mom director's office. I overheard something. Uncle Mayor wants to adopt a girl. She has to be talented and pretty." "Why?" "Because Victoria doesn't look like the mayor's daughter, but she really is his daughter." Jane half understood. I knew the reason. It was Victoria's mother's dying wish. She didn't allow the mayor to remarry, nor to have any more children. Their marriage had been purely an alliance. Only the woman had feelings. The man never cared. Victoria's maternal family had monitored the mayor constantly for the sake of their daughter and granddaughter. He was a charming, romantic man. Toward Victoria's face, his feelings shifted from irritation to outright disgust. He thought she looked just as ugly as her mother. Whenever he saw Victoria, he was reminded of the days when his family forced him to leave his first love and marry a country bumpkin. Worst of all, Victoria had no talent whatsoever. He was always stern in front of her. She had never once acted spoiled or coquettish with her father. To the mayor, Victoria existed only in two states, cold indifference and furious anger. He couldn't stand pouring resources into Victoria and seeing nothing come of it. He felt she had nothing outstanding about her. Hate the house, and you hate the crow. One could easily imagine just how much he despised Victoria's mother. Chapter 3. That time he came to the orphanage. He was looking to adopt a child who suited his personal taste. He was very satisfied with Jane. Those days, the orphanage was unusually lively. Many children pulled out all the stops, trying to squeeze their way into the Ning family, even rushing over to flatter Victoria Ning. Jane took Zack and me to the back hill to dig dwarf Lilith. Victoria basked in the feeling of being the center of attention. The mayor intended to choose Jane for adoption. Victoria was furious, but she couldn't show it. She knew that even a single ordinary gesture from her could provoke her father's disgust. So she took the initiative and approached Zack. She said, "My dad has a terrible temper. He hits kids. I'm bored and will be staying here for half a month. Be my playmate, and I'll find a way to stop my dad from adopting Jane." You can still be friends. Zack really believed her. Jane also really didn't leave, though it was because she chose to stay. The mayor was always thinking about Jane, saying things like wishing she were his daughter. Only later did Victoria find out. Jane was Charlotte's child. Charlotte was her father's first love. They argued. Stop dreaming. You want to adopt Jane? Because she's your first love's daughter? Seeing her makes you think of your first love? Then what about my mother? He said. Don't mention your mother to me. If it weren't for her family background, with that face, that body, that resume, she'd only be fit to marry a drunk. He said she and her mother were equally ugly, equally nauseating, equally mediocre. He said, you take my money and use it to support that bastard. Has he ever looked at you once? You're just like your mother, pathetically throwing yourself at men who don't even want you. The he was talking about was Zack. What he didn't know was that to Victoria, Zack was like a pretty flower, if not this one, then another. Chapter 4. She had only one goal, to destroy Jane. To destroy her effortless, understated life. When Victoria debased herself, she believed what she possessed was what the world owed her. What she longed for was what the world still owed. She couldn't see Zack in Jane's life of drifting hardship. She just didn't like Jane. She didn't even know whether she truly desired Zack. All she knew was that when she saw Jane's name written in her father's will, she went mad with jealousy. She would stop at nothing, use any means necessary, to destroy her, to destroy the person who could so effortlessly take what should have been hers. If she didn't trample Jane under her feet for even a single day, that hateful face loomed in her mind. They tormented each other. They cursed each other to eternal loneliness. She wanted to win, whether it was cosmetic surgery, accepting the casting couch, or driving a wedge between Zack and Jane. She did it all with enthusiasm, even treating it like a career. She hated Jane's effortless calm. She hated that blood ties meant nothing in her father's eyes. She hated that he lost all reason just because of Jane's face. Chapter 5. One rainy season in our early teens, I died. The entire orphanage went out for a performance. We encountered a flash flood on the road. Thunder roared and lightning split the sky. Jane and I were separated from the others. She was more than 10 meters away, crying as she ran over, trying to dig me out from falling rocks. I saw her nails break, her fingers bleeding, and told her it was okay. When I die, I'll become an angel, and then I'll protect you instead. She cried horribly, snot and tears streaming everywhere. Zack ran out from the shelter to look for us. He and Jane dug together. Then a bolt of lightning struck Zack, and Jane lunged toward him. She's that kind of person, fiercely loyal. If she receives even a little kindness, she repays it 100-fold. And then I really did become an angel. My first mission was assigned to Jane. Back then, I truly believed she and Zack would be happy, because she knew how to love, and they had been through a lot together. Until Victoria appeared. She came prepared, sowing discord between them. I went from believing in Zack, to wavering, to disappointment. When my Jane chooses someone, she loves them with her whole heart, and he placed many things ahead of Jane. He was the kind of person who never learns to cherish until he loses. The punishment arrived early, by my hand. I wanted Jane to know what it meant to have someone backing her. I had already prepared a brand new life for her. I exchanged all my points for it. When I sent her back 14 days earlier, her abilities and wealth were still vastly inferior to Victoria's side. She had thought about revenge, but in those 14 days she still had to prepare wedding gifts for friends, an 80th birthday gift for her goddaughter, transfer the copyright of a certain comic to a die-hard fan friend, settle arrangements for some children at the orphanage, and find good help for mom director. In short, she was extremely busy. She had no time to personally take revenge. So she bought a system from my points shop and hired someone to do the revenge while she focused on saying goodbye. In truth, I was the one who personally stepped in. I flipped Victoria's identity from bully to victim in a full 360-degree turn. She was shocked, crying and saying that bullying was wrong. I'm just a cute little system. I just wanted to play with you, don't you want to? Miss Ning? As for Zack, I made him utterly disgraced. Public opinion turned against him. Within days, major investors abandoned him. He had to pay enormous penalties and withdrew from the entertainment industry. Like a lunatic, He drank himself senseless every day at home, shouting Jane's name, as if my girl's name was something he could just call. Jane let me do bad things. I asked her if she would still think of old feelings. She shot back. Do you think I'm sick? I'm kind, not stupid. If I were still clinging on, wouldn't that mean I hadn't died enough yet? I said. Fair point. You really were pretty muddle-headed before. How is your taste that bad? But from now on, it's all happiness. Zack, Extra. Chapter 1. The day Jane left. I said to her, "Can I come see you in the future? I promise I won't disturb you." At that time, I didn't know it was a farewell between life and death. The last thing she said to me was wishing me peace, wishing me health. Then she drove away. I followed behind the car for a long distance. Suddenly, the air after sunset felt unbearably cold. Toby trailed behind me, alone. I crouched down and said to it, "How could she abandon even you?" I muttered to myself, "Can I go see her in the future?" Toby whimpered. I took it home, thinking that once she finished clearing her head, I'd move closer to where she lived. As long as I could see her happy, that would be enough. After all, we had shared so many years. She wouldn't be so cruel as to drive me away. We can just watch her from afar. Then I saw Toby write on her oil painting canvas, "Jane is dead." I didn't believe it. It wrote again, "You and I killed her." I insisted. "She's fine. She just went out to get some air." Toby said it was a future version of Zack. In its timeline, Jane was already dead. She had come back to say goodbye. I stood frozen, forcing myself to process that fact. Suddenly, Toby collapsed. I reached out, and slowly, my hands were smeared with dried blood. Dominic's fist came down. Voices were noisy all around. I returned to my own timeline, remembering everything. Zack. Damn it, your wedding night. And you weren't with your wife. It seemed Dominic had asked me a question. On the night of our wedding, there had been some strange celestial phenomenon in the country. I hadn't answered because I didn't know. He grabbed my collar, teeth clenched. "Answer it, and she can live." I had never seen Dominic like that before. None of his usual gentleness remained. I looked at the empty corridor and said to him, "I want to see Jane." He let out a cold laugh. "Go to hell, Zack." His fist slammed into me, yet I felt nothing at all. "Do me a favor, kill me," he said. "I'm a doctor." I fell to the ground. The floor was icy cold. My nostrils filled with the smell of disinfectant. I don't know why, but memories that didn't belong to my perspective suddenly flooded my mind. Jane stood on the road. Something called a system said to her, "For just $1, you can continue living as Zack's wife." She threw the coin away. "I don't need it anymore." I reached out to grab it, but the coin passed through me and fell into the sea. "Jane!" I lunged forward, and the surroundings turned back into the orphanage. "My name is Jane. What's yours?" "Zack. I'll be your boss. If they bully you, you won't have to be afraid anymore." She waited beneath the lemon tree. I walked over and lifted her down. "Zack, if you keep walking toward me, I'll keep waiting. I will. Believe me." She took a knife meant for me from rival fans. I cried until I couldn't see anything, my hands slick with sticky blood. She said, "Zack, look, there's a red moon tonight." I didn't dare look. I was afraid that if I lifted my head, she'd disappear. "Zack, when do you think we'll grow up?" We stood outside the classroom together as punishment. I thought for a moment. Next second, she unwrapped the colored paper I bought, cutting it up to decorate our future home. "Zack, I'm about to achieve my dream. My dream is to have a home." She danced in the empty room, arms flailing. "Zack, you'll become a superstar too." Back then, her favorite movie was Titanic. Every day she dragged me into the living room to project it on the wall. She looked at me and mimicked Rose, saying, "Hello, Jack." I looked back at her. "Rose, winning that ticket was the luckiest thing in my life. It let me meet you." What was it that let me meet Jane? And what was it that made me lose her? It was my own doing. Later, in the entertainment industry, I met Victoria. She took me to meet her stepmother, my mother. She looked worn by time and hardship. Victoria said she was living very poorly. Victoria used her own belongings to disguise them as gifts from my mother. The letter said, "Mom misses you. Mom didn't mean to abandon you. Zack. Mom loves you." I remembered her carefree figure from my childhood, the white dress under the sunset. Dancing in the wind. Zack. Mom loves you. She lifted me up. Mom will make you the happiest little prince in the world. I had been separated from the past for too long. The more distant those memories became, the more desperately I wrapped them up, beautified them, yearned for them until I lost my mind, opening my hand to grab a fistful of flowing sand. In the end, I held on to nothing at all. Chapter 2. Jane's favorite movie became atonement. One night, Victoria attempted suicide over public opinion and called me away. Jane was watching a movie in the living room. Green light flickered across the white wall. In the film, the female lead said, "Come back. Come back to me." Jane once said she would never try to grab something that was flying away, because crying and clinging were useless punishments. She called out to me, "Zack." That was when the farewell truly began. I asked, "Baby, what's wrong?" She shook her head and turned her gaze back to the screen. "Be careful." I received photos Victoria sent me, pictures of Jane and Dominic. I confronted Jane. "Lost my mind," Victoria said. "Zack, if you think I don't love you, then I don't." I became an irrational madman, searching everywhere for proof that she didn't love me. I thought, even if she didn't want me, it was fine, I still had another kind of love. But when it came down to the end, my mother said, "When did I ever write you a letter? When did I ever love you? You're as naive as you were when you were little. If I told you I'd come pick you up in a couple of days, you really believed it. I was just placating you. An illegitimate child can't be put on the table, otherwise how could I have suffered so much back then? Things are better now. I don't have to be tormented by the family because of your existence anymore." She held her own child, smiling, happy and exhausted. "I don't know what you're longing for. I have my own family. Why can't you be more sensible? Your wife came to see me, begging me not to give you false hope. I said I never did. It was all his own imagination. Only then did I realize I wasn't a mentally sound child. I was wrong. I debased myself and lost what I had." Chapter 3. I want to fish that coin back out. Victoria came to see me, looking pitiful and fragile. I said, "Can you get lost?" She smashed a lot of my things. "Zack, you deserve it. You used me to provoke Jane. Do you really think you were just trying to make her angry? You only love yourself. Isn't it that once Jane didn't love you anymore, you went looking for the next one? What are you trying to prove? That you don't lack anyone's love?" Yes, I realize it now. I trampled on what she gave me. Dominic was right. I brought this on myself. I said, "I love her. Please let me see her. I'm begging you." He was cold. Jane told me she thought love meant two people making a promise, being together, keeping each other company. She didn't expect she'd chosen the wrong path. Because you never learn to cherish what's right in front of you. Your self-protection instinct is too strong, no matter how important or long-lasting a companionship is. Once you feel the threat of abandonment, you selfishly turn around and abandon others first. You're afraid of being abandoned, so you choose to abandon others first. That might not be wrong, everyone protects themselves. But have you ever thought about what she did for you? You treated what Jane gave you as cheaply as everything else. But things like that can't be cut away. You can't just throw them all out and expect to feel light again. I covered my eyes with my hands, tears squeezing through my fingers. He said, "She left you a message. But at the time, you were questioning her over Victoria's post." I answered the phone, you heard it and started raging again. "So I didn't plan to tell you. I really don't get how you can be this pathetic. Her moves were so obvious. Why did you always believe Victoria's side of the story?" He gave a mocking laugh. "Is it because you didn't believe Jane loved you? Then you really don't deserve to be loved. Go to hell. Zack, hell suits you." I lost all strength, slid down the wall with my back against it. I crawled over on my knees and asked with a laugh, "Please tell me what she left for me, okay?" He looked down at me and smiled faintly. "I don't want to tell you, but what I can say is this, you had a child together. Just a month ago, the day you were called away by Victoria again." He smiled with sarcasm. "Jane fell. I was the one who went to get her. What did Victoria tell you that made you stay away for 3 days?" Let me guess, she told you Jane and I were together. Being intimate. She chose to terminate that child. Dominic didn't wait for me. He walked away. I remembered, when I came back then. She looked pale, and I questioned her instead. The one you actually want to choose was never me. You don't love me at all. Otherwise, why are you always thinking about Dominic? He's married. Are you rushing to be someone's mistress? She slapped me. Her face looked stricken with pain. I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't understand. How could I ever doubt Jane's ability to love? She was the only light in my life. And I, sinful and selfish, wanted that light to belong only to me. What was I doing? What were you doing, Zack? Chapter 4. I went to find Dominic, begging him to tell me what Jane had left for me. He refused to see me. Because of Victoria's scandals, the stock prices of 2 companies plummeted. She came to me again. Aren't you trying to find your mother? I've talked to her. As long as you stabilize the company, as long as you help me clarify things publicly, she'll accept you. Zack. You can't do this. The Ning Group has already been hollowed out. I can't plug the hole. If you don't help me, I'm finished. I'm begging you. Your PR firm is so powerful. How can you not help me with something this small? I'm done for. That dead person's parents say they'll sue me to the end. Do you know how long I worked to get where I am? It's all because of her. She had weak mental resilience and jumped herself. How is that my fault? She grabbed at me. Fine. If you won't help me, I'll expose Jane's videos. I won't let her rest in peace even after death. I still have versions from when she was older. You didn't know that, did you? I'll tell you the truth. I'm a vile person. Why do you think she targeted me? Because I was always opposing her. My life revolved around her. All I ever wanted was to destroy her. She's dead now. Perfect. And you deserve it. Honestly. She treated you so well. I didn't have to do much at all. Just put on a little act. And I could lure you away. You really should die. I looked at her. We should all die. After all of that, I went to be with Jane. Dominic, extra. Jane did leave words behind. But in truth, I didn't hear them clearly. She could no longer make a sound. Her speech was slurred. I leaned closer, my ear almost touching her lips. And still I couldn't make out anything. Later, a fragment of memory suddenly appeared in my mind. She said goodbye to me. I think that moment must also have been her farewell. Zack came to block my way every few days, each time looking more haggard than before. He was already not fully lucid. Every time he came, his hands would be clasped together, rubbing up and down, crying as he asked, "Please tell me, did she mention me? Did she say my name? Please, please." They say that when someone loses the most important person in their life, they start believing in religion, trying to find an entrance to another world. His wrists were hung with many strings of prayer beads. Once, a child on a scooter knocked him over. The beads scattered everywhere, and his arms were covered in knife-like scars. When he didn't come looking for me, he would have brief moments of clarity. For example, when Victoria became a pariah. Thanks to him, they fought each other for a while. She lost, because she still had things she feared, while Zack feared nothing. She wandered the streets for some time, and eventually died at the hands of the mother of that girl. She was diagnosed as mentally ill. There was a nationwide petition, and in the end she was only sent to a psychiatric hospital. After that, Zack lost his company, sold his house, and became determined to fish for that coin. No one knows how long it went on. He aged faster than ordinary people, completely losing the vigor he once had. When he saw me on a bridge, he would suddenly kneel to greet me. "Dominic, if you remember what my wife left me, you have to tell me. Dominic, have you remembered what my wife left me? Dominic, did my wife tell you where I should go to find her?" He was clearly no longer sane. After greeting me, he would go back into the water to fish for coins. A tattered cloth bag was all his worldly possessions. This area was an inland sea. The water wasn't very deep. The authorities left him alone. There was no reasoning with him. And in his spare time, he volunteered to clean trash from the river. Over time, people simply let him be. I passed that place with my children, and later with my grandchildren. He was often there, dressed in rags. Many people knew the story and would deliberately go over to provoke him. to toy with him. He would turn red with agitation, shouting, "I love her. I love my wife. She didn't abandon me, she just went on a long trip." Jane's journalist friend laughed loudly. "She just didn't want you anymore. Only when someone's dead do you pretend to be devoted. You piece of trash. You deserve it." She lifted a mythical beast acrylic keychain and shook it mockingly. "You don't cherish people when they're alive. Then you act deeply in love after death. I just love watching you like this." He had seen Jane's drafts for one of her comics. She had drawn side stories and character cards. Those character cards, no one but him had ever seen them. They were all first drafts. After Jane died, he gathered all her belongings and stored them carefully. "How do you have this? This is Jane's. Only she and I knew about it." He looked at her with hopeful eyes. She shoved him aside and turned to leave. "Idiot." He chased after her and was beaten up by the journalist's husband. He hated men like that the most. I glanced at the decorations inside my car. It was another mythical beast character card. Jane had given it to me. She said she was going to have a new life. Had the system send gifts for us. And told us not to miss her. The system said, if he finds the coin, I'll fulfill the promise. I don't think it's necessary. And I don't want him to succeed. But those are the system rules. All right. I'm done talking. Jane asked me to play ball. The Dominic in that world talks a lot. Unlike you. From that day on, Zack seemed to become strange, as if he realized something. Or guessed something. He became even more determined to find that coin. Besides going into the water, his footsteps ranged far and wide. There was even an account dedicated to live streaming him. For example, in the morning he'd go to Guangtua Mountain to burn incense and hang wish plaques. In the afternoon, he'd rescue someone from the river. At night, he'd run to busy districts to persuade people not to take their own lives, and sometimes fight with those who egged others on to jump. He believed in Buddhism, wanted to do good deeds, to cleanse his sins. When he was 60, he was found dead in the sea where Jane's accident had happened. I went to identify the body. There was a smile on his face. And in his hand, he really was clutching a coin. I wanted to pry it out and throw it away, but found that his fingers were curled tight, impossibly firm. "Sir, please don't touch the body." I straightened up and wiped my hands. I don't know how Jane is doing in that other world. She'll live again, without remembering us. But all I hope is that she's happy, just as she once wished for me.